Hi, Jitendra. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. So, for the viewers, may we request you to please share your journey and your story in your own words?
Sure. So, a brief background about me. I was born and raised in Mumbai. For my undergrad education, I went to the University of Mumbai. I went to Podar College in Matunga, did BCom for my undergrad, and also parallelly was pursuing chartered accountancy. And I finished that in 2015. Post that, I started my career in audit with Deloitte and spent 2 years there auditing Tata Motors. And then I left to go to Nomura, where I spent about 4 years in financial and capital reporting, supporting the European and American business. I parallelly was also doing CFA, and then just while I was at Nomura, I was really attracted to financial services, and I wanted to go into a more high impact role. So that's when I decided that I have to leave now, go to business school, and do the whole thing. So started looking at business schools, took the GMAT exam, applied to a few business schools, got into Stern, and came here 4 months ago. That's about it.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. So, in your opinion, what are a few factors or actions you took that made all the difference?
I think the MBA particularly, I felt like I was, in a way, what I did right was in hindsight, not that I did this consciously. In hindsight, I feel like I developed a holistic personality through the years in the sense that I was always involved in extracurricular activities at school, at college. So that sort of, made a difference because I was always um, not that guy in class. I was a nerd, but I was not that kind of a nerd who was just in class and attending lectures regularly and topping exams. That was not me, but I was somewhere in the top 5 percentile probably, but I was also very involved in extracurriculars. That sort of made a difference. In general, I felt like um, my career choices were driven by what I wanted to do
Mhm.
more than, what I should have been doing. So money never dictated anything. So I felt like that is probably what made somewhat of a difference in hindsight. I mean, I'm just looking back at it right now, not that I have given this a very serious thought.
But that's actually amazing. I mean, the
Mhm.
kind of motivation that you have towards what you're passionate about, I think that's something to really learn from you.
Yeah.
What do you think were a few mistakes you committed in the process?
I think what I didn't realize was that there were some doors that only business schools open. I actually used to look down on an MBA when I graduated in 2015 from my chartered accountancy course. I used to feel like I have a CA. Why do I need to go and do an MBA? And I also felt at that time that, I read this report that said one in every four Indian graduates will have an MBA by 2025. And I was like, okay, everybody's doing an MBA, so I don't need to do it. So I think that is what I felt was a mistake in the sense that I believed I did not need to do an MBA for the longest time. It was not that I still believe that it's a necessary thing to have, but like I think there are some doors that MBAs can open that others cannot. So for me, I just give this advice to everyone that MBA, if you're coming to an MBA school, whether it's in US or in India, to study, to get some new knowledge, then your idea of business school is wrong. Like you're not going there to study. Nobody goes to business school to study. It's basically you're paying up for getting a network, you're paying up to open a few doors that were probably shut to you. That's why people do an MBA, and that's why I did an MBA. So I think the mistake I made was early on, I believe that an MBA is unnecessary. It it is wrong for sure. Then overall through the process in general, I feel like this is something a lot of my friends have also talked to me about once we got to Stern is we tend to focus a lot on meritocracy because that's what we've been raised to believe in India. Like if you don't get the score, you're not going to get the admission, right? So we believe a lot in like hardcore achievements. Even in our applications, what we try to highlight is our scores, our achievements at work, our achievements at school and all of that, awards and whatnot, all of that. But I feel like what we miss in that journey is to showcase our personality to the schools, which I believe is a huge mistake that Indians do. Because once I got here, just for fun, like we were just sharing our MBA applications with one another as friends because we were like, okay, let's look at how embarrassing it is and what kind of lies everyone told in their application. And when I went through it, the one big thing I realized was that one thing differentiating Indians from everyone else was that there was absolutely no or very little showcase of personality in terms of our interests, in terms of what we like to do outside of work, what we do to relax, all of that. So I think those were two mistakes I believe I made too with everyone else that you shouldn't.
Oh, all right. Okay. So going back to your GMAT preparation
Mhm,
phase, what
mhm,
were the main resources that you used, and what
mhm.
advice will you give to the future aspirants?
Okay, sure. So I think for GMAT, what I did was initially I was focusing on the original guides. So that's the only predominant material I used. The original guides are the best and the Holy Grail, the Holy Bible, whatever you want to call them. You don't need anything else besides the original guides. So I did my concepts and a few practice questions through that. And then when the time came to practice mocks, I had Experts Global's mocks and I had a few of the original mocks as well. And I think that was enough for me because I think at some point I realized that the exam is not about concept, the exam is about timing. And so practice is key. So I did like the 15 mocks that Experts Global had given me. I did 6 mocks through the original guide. And I think that was more than sufficient to get me a good score. So I practiced very, very heavily. And the materials I used were OG predominantly because that's what is the closest to what your actual exam is going to be like. There's no point in being over or under prepared. So I feel like over preparation is also not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Just doing the right thing is important. So just do the original guide and I think you should be good.
Okay, okay. So according to you, what is the frequency of mocks that a student must take?
So I think right in the beginning, I had taken one mock as a diagnostic to see where I stand without any preparation. And then I used to take a mock every weekend. So either Saturday or Sunday, whenever I found the time, I used to take one mock exam, which was just to see whether my score is improving, not improving, what I'm doing right, wrong, all that, where I stand. And then I think a week before the exam, I used to take a mock every single morning from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. because that was my actual exam timing as well. My exam was from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. So I used to do it from 7 to 11. And, I used to just do it at the same time so that I could simulate the actual environment. I used to take 8-minute breaks sharp. Like even when I was at home, I used to not get up in the middle of the exam because even though I had the functionality to, just so that I could simulate what I'm going to face in the actual exam, how stressful is it going to be to just come back after 8 minutes. And I used to do it in the same order that I wanted to do the actual exam. So I used to take quant first, then verbal, then the two writing sections. So I think a week before I used to do it every single day and just to see how it's going, whether my score is improving, not improving, what kind of challenges am I facing. So yeah, that's the frequency of mocks I have. Yeah.
So that's quite an interesting way to go about the practice tests, I think.
Mhm.
Like doing it at the
Yeah.
same time and also like
Yeah.
doing it in the same order you are actually preparing doing your GMAT exam. So that's pretty
I think it's
interesting.
important.
Yeah.
I think it's important to do it in that order and at that time because you want to see. So the thing is, what happened was that I realized a few friends also told me that, they were practicing during the day, but like they got an exam slot from 11 to 2. But like you have to train your brain to be its most active self and be its best performer at the time of the exam, right? So if you've been practicing from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and then your exam is at 8 a.m. in the morning, naturally your brain is not going to function. So for me, it was important that I woke up every morning at 6, got ready, at 7 and like started the exam at 7 so that I could see exactly at that time how my brain functions. If it's not the best, I have to train it to be the best at that time so that I could get the highest score. So that's why it's important to simulate it exactly at that time
Hmm.
and in that same order because that's what you'll face in the actual exam as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is so
Yeah.
true. So,
Mhm.
what would you like to say about your experiences and learnings from managing your application timelines?
Oh, I don't know how I did that because I was a little late in my GMAT because I didn't get the right score the first time around. So I had to reappear once. So I had like a 690 and then a 750. So I got a little late in terms of managing my timeline with GMAT, which is sort of why I had a ripple effect on my applications. But the thing is, I had already started working on them parallelly. I had not taken it very seriously because I was like, if I don't get a score, I will never submit this application. So there's no point in spending too much effort. But I had started doing rough outlines of essays and like looking
Hmm.
at the applications, downloading them, just seeing what it is all about. And then after my GMAT was over, I started like lightning speed working towards my applications and submitting them on time. So I actually missed round one deadline because of my poor GMAT score. Then I had to apply in round two, which was a January round. And for Stern particularly, it was round three because Stern also has a round two in November. So once my exam was done, I immediately started writing all the essays, all the documents, getting everything ready so that I could submit on time. And I think I had about a month wherein I finished all the applications. So I worked on another school's application first, which was rolling reviews. So I did that first, and then everything else I had finished by the deadline. I don't know. I don't exactly remember what the timeline was, but like I remember that I had just 1 month between the day I got my GMAT score to the day when it was to the day when applications were due.
Okay, I mean, that's a pretty short period of time, but it's amazing how you managed to still pull it off and finish it all before the deadline.
I
So,
only applied to 4 schools, so it's not a big feat. Also, I think that's also one of the things. Do not apply to just 4 schools. Probably 5 to 7 is a good number. 4 might be a risky bet. So,
okay. So, can
yeah.
you please describe your interview experience with the V School?
Yeah, sure. So I interviewed for a couple of schools. So there were two distinct kinds of interviews I saw. One was like the blind interviews where the interview has nothing but your resume. And then you are supposed to try the discussion and like tell them everything you want to tell them. And then there was non-blind interviews, which is something Stern does, and I think HBS also does, wherein the interviewers are from the admissions team. They've gone through your entire application and they can ask you questions from anywhere. So both of them have their pros and cons. And I think I witnessed that when I was interviewing. So with the non-blind interviews where your resume is with
Mhm.
just your resume is with the interviewer, that then it becomes your responsibility to sort of drive the discussion and tell them each and every key point of your application as to why you are a deserving MBA candidate, because they've not read your essay, they've not read your other documents, so they don't know exactly what your credentials are besides your resume. So it comes down to us to drive the discussion in such a way that you cover all your sell points and give them everything through the interview experience. While on the other hand, with the non-blind interviews, which is what I experienced at Stern, it's very, very important to know every single thing that you've written in your application, because the questions could come from anywhere, and it also has to make sense. It has to be a watertight story. So in case like a lot of us do lie on applications. I didn't, but like a lot of people do lie on their applications. And in case we've lied, then you have to make sure that you cover it up so well in the interview that it doesn't leak out, because there will be a lot of questioning. And if the story doesn't hold in those questionings, then you're probably giving the signal that your application was something else and you are something else, and that's a bad look always. So then it becomes very, very important to make sure that your story is concise and it's making sense from all sides. I think that is what is an important thing to note, because I remember one of the questions I was asked at Stern was, I just mentioned somewhere that I love watching movies, and I was asked about what is my favorite movie character. So even that could be us. So it's not, so nothing you mention in the application is,
Mhm.
not going to be questioned. Anything and everything you mention can be asked about. So yeah.
All right, okay. So, can you tell us more about your MBA experience?
It has been fantastic. Like I wanted to be in New York, which is why I chose Stern over another school, which was not in New York. So I wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be close to Broadway. Like I mentioned, I love movies and theater, so I wanted to be close to Broadway. So that's why I'm here. I met the most amazing people. The class that Stern has is about 360 students. I've not met all of them, but I've met a significant proportion of them, and they're all outstanding people. They're all, rooting for you while at the same time competing with you. So it's never cutthroat. That's never something I felt, which is actually quite an anti-New York thing to have, because I'd heard all kinds of things about New York, about how it's cutthroat, people will walk all over you, but like at Stern, that's not the case at all. So it's been an amazing, amazing experience. We got to do this in person. I'm enjoying living in New York City right now. As I look out of my window, it's snowing, which I've not seen a lot in India. So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience.
Okay, wow, that's really nice. So, what would you like to say about your job search experience during the
Mhm.
MBA, and what tips will you give to the future candidates?
Absolutely. So I would say that I think the biggest thing I would say is that pick the school based on how they perform in your desired career post MBA. So like for example, Stern does very, very well when it comes to investment banking. Stern is also doing very well in consulting. Stern is also doing very, very well in tech. So if you are interested in these, you can consider Stern. If you're interested in something where, other schools perform better, then go for that. Like, I just don't know what careers they are, but like in general, I would say that look at the career outcomes of every single school. Look at the location where you want to work post MBA, because you don't want to be like, okay, I'm going to this school in this city, but like for my job, I'm going to move to another city. If that's the case, if that's something you're interested in, go ahead. But otherwise, in general, the way I looked at it was I selected Stern based on what I wanted to do
Okay.
post MBA, the location where I wanted to be in New York. So that is how I decided what school I should be at. And that's what has helped me in job search as well. With
Okay.
regards to the job search, particularly,
Hmm.
every single top school that there is in the US gets the same companies and gives you the same opportunities to network, to talk to people and make your way through. So it's not going to be, restricted in any way. So if you want to do investment banking, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, every single company comes to campus as much as they go to every other campus. Start has a very strong alumni presence in every sector, so that's not a problem at all. When it comes to tech, you'll have all the FANG companies coming to campus. So it's not in any way, there is no door that is closed when you go to any top MBA program. So in that sense, it's not going to be a problem. What it comes down to is how you network, how you pitch yourself, what your intentions are, what your plans are, how you perform in the interviews, how you perform in the coffee chats that happen before interviews. That's what will decide your fate. So I think what I would say is any top MBA will not stop you from going anywhere,
Hmm.
as long as you're so determined and so clear and you go and get it.
All right. Okay. But it's definitely not a cakewalk, because then you like kind of have to make the best out of the resources that you
Absolutely.
have, right? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Every single school will give you all the resources, and then it comes down to what you do with them. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So, according to you, what are a few common mistakes that all the aspirants must avoid?
I think definitely one is focusing too much on your achievements. It's great. Everybody has achievements. I think resume is the right place for that. Do not give it too much real estate to it on your essays. First turn, do not give it too much weightage on your pick six. You can definitely do it. Like I also had one picture which was about me holding a giant trophy. You can definitely do that. Like your achievements are very important, but like I would also say showcase your personality a little bit, especially Indians. I feel we focus so much on everything else that we forget to showcase our personality. And that's why you'd see some people with extremely high scores, not making it to these schools. Why is probably because, um, you know,
Yeah.
you didn't show them your interests, you didn't tell them what you are outside of work, you didn't tell them what you are as a personality. So, and I think we all think that we can show that in our interviews, but like, what if you don't even get an interview?
Oh,
So
right.
I think one thing you should definitely focus on is like showcasing your whole self rather than just your
Right.
achiever self. Definitely showcase what you're interested in, what you like doing outside of work. So if it's painting, if it's movies, if it's sports, anything, just show that in the application as well. And yeah, definitely cast a wide net. Like 4 schools is too little. It's
Right.
it's a risky bet. You may not make it. So
Okay.
definitely consider applying to a couple of more schools, not too many. Don't go to 20 schools, but like 4 to 7, 5 to 7, 6 to 7, something of that sort should do the trick for you.
All right. Okay. So, what would be your final message to all the future aspirants watching this video?
Good luck, study well. GMAT is very, very important, especially as Indians. I probably didn't say this before, but like the average GMAT scores are not something you should aim for. Definitely go for above average. Showcase your personality in your applications. Be an interesting person on paper before you make it to the interviews. And then in interviews, just try to prove that what you wrote on paper is actually true. So I think that's something you should do. Pick a wide net of schools. Don't necessarily be hell bent on one or the other school, because I can tell you for sure when I go to these interviews, I see, so when I'm sitting in an interview room at a company's office, let's say if it's a consulting firm or an investment bank or a tech company, you'll have people from every single school.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have people from the schools that you perceived were above your school in rankings, and people who were below. Everybody will be there. As long as you're talented, you'll be there. So if you come to a top business school, the difference really is very, very minimal. In fact, I don't think there's any difference at all. Every single school offers you a distinct and unique experience and advantage. Stern's advantage is New York City. New York City's opportunities are unparalleled and like unmatched. So all of that comes in. So I'm just saying, like, do not be hell bent on one school. Be flexible. Look at a few schools. See wherever you can best fit in, and like see whatever is acceptable to you. Because if you are really talented, if you are really determined, if you are really willing to work hard, no matter what school you're at in the top 20 or whatever the number of schools is, you'll find success. So don't be like super hell-bent that, okay, I'll only go to business school if I get into one school, or I won't do it at all.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's great.
Mhm.
And I would really like to congratulate you for completing your journey to success. I think it's just a new beginning, I would say, but it's quite
Yeah.
inspiring and interesting how far you have come.
Mhm.
And thank you so much for sharing your experience and learnings
Yeah.
with us. So thank you so much for giving us
Thank
your
you so
time.
much. It was great talking to you too. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more informative content.